Hello everyone and welcome to BrickCats. My channel is for anyone who enjoys custom LEGO creations, likes saving money, and or those looking to get into custom building. If you're a fan of my channel or are interested in supporting what I do, please consider liking this review, subscribing, or leaving a comment. Each like, subscription, and comment helps others find my channel, and I greatly appreciate your support. Today I'm reviewing designer FlyInSpace's minifigure scale Delta 7 Jedi Interceptor. Without any substitutions, in late June 2024, I got 4 stores and $56 without shipping and tax, or about $84 with shipping and tax. In my reviews, I offer my opinions on aesthetics and model features, parts issues you might want to look out for, the build experience, the model's integrity, and I close out with my overall impression and pricing information in a conclusion. If you're watching this review, I assume you have bought the instructions or are interested in buying them. I also assume a basic level of familiarity with Brickling's ordering system and LEGO nomenclature. I only use genuine LEGO bricks and I always purchase the instructions. I create these reviews for my own personal enjoyment and in the hopes that my advice will make your experience more enjoyable and or less expensive. FlyInSpace's Delta 7 measures 10 inches by 5 inches by 4.5 inches on the display stand, about 2 inches off the display stand, and 2.5 inches on the included landing gear. The Delta 7 is quite a small shipping cannon, thus this model is very comfortably in the minifigure scale range. Starting at the nose, per usual, the more or less standard 4x1 slopes in addition to the newer 5404 2x1 solid slopes set the angle for the rest of the hull. I think once the 5404 slopes come out in dark red, these white ones could be replaced to more accurately represent the white and red areas, but the best slope is the one that you have, as they always say, and this looks just fine. A bit further back, the central ridge of the hull is represented with a single tile, and the black pneumatic T-pieces represent the blaster cannons. There's a bit of lime green color detailing to match this small area here. The wings are angled with mixel joints, which allow the designer to give a nice straight edge here using tiles instead of wedge pieces, except for the very back here. Overall, I think the wings look excellent. I think it's only a matter of time before LEGO makes the 1x1 inverted bracket in dark red. It's long overdue. These are not too visible against the dark red though. The black 1x1 modified plates with light attachment create some minor bumps, but the goal here was to maintain this black line on the outer edge of the wing and to keep the wing looking thin. And finally, with the wing constructed as it is, the engine outlets outlined in white here are not parallel to the long axis of the fighter. I think this is a perfectly reasonable trade-off, as not using wedges eliminates a lot of studs and maintains the clean look that FlyInSpace usually goes for. R4 is in his spot on the port side with the Republic logo sticker opposite. I think I swiped this one off on an old round tile, but the 75333 sticker sheet, which is very inexpensive these days, works as well. The cockpit matches up very nicely to the side assemblies and has room for a pilot to sit comfortably inside. There's a small representation of instrument screens inside as well as the pilot's seat. Moving behind the cockpit, this little wedge piece here nicely represents the cannon detail, and while there is a little bit of a gap where the cockpit connection is, this allows the cockpit to open and close without having to remove that piece. The small section behind the cockpit has a bit of asymmetry just due to how it's constructed and the lack of appropriate pieces. I think if you're using the 75333 sticker sheet anyway, you could use some of those stickers in this area to perhaps make it a bit more accurate, especially on the side where it's all white. I really like that this is angled slightly downwards towards the rear, and subtle angles like this are one of the things FlyInSpace excels at. The two engines are black wheel pieces. I also really like the inclusion of the greeveling details between the top and the bottom of the wings represented in black right here. The underside continues the color scheme with some minor exceptions like these black plates along the wings, which would have taken up additional pieces and resulted in additional thickness to cover up. There are attachment points for the included landing gear. I've left them on for ease of demonstration here, but I did not find these to be very stable, especially this front one here, but if you set down the model delicately, the landing skids will hold. If you're going to use this in a mock scene, I would probably support it with a trans-clear brick though. FlyInSpace has included a functional display stand with a clip inserted into a fingered hinge piece, while the rest of the fighter braced with a 1x1 slope. This is a legal connection, and the last example I recall of this in an official set was the Razor Crest cockpit assembly. This is great for ease of taking the fighter off the stand and putting it back on. I have found that it's a little too loose for my liking. It's pretty easy to change this out with a 1x2 plate with bar if you want to. Function aside, the stand looks great and I really like this angled support beam here, which fits in nicely with the sleek aesthetic of the model and makes it look like it's in forward motion. Overall, this is such a good model, and trust me, it looks even better in person. Even though it's small, there's really great parts usage to recreate very subtle details. FlyInSpace's Delta 7 as specified requires 155 elements and just 400 pieces. The sticker for the Republic insignia is not specified in the parts list, however, so if you want to add that, you could use something like the sticker sheet for 75333 I mentioned earlier. That's part number 75333 STK01, and use sticker number 4. Alternatively, the most widely available and least expensive stickered 2x2 round tile is 4150PB002B in light bluish gray. This is what I used in my pricing research. The newer Part 5404, the Slope 18 2x1x2/3 in white, aren't completely outrageous, and these will get less expensive over time. I paid about 75 cents for each of mine. The two on the bottom are not as visible, however, so you can comfortably substitute two of the old cheese graver slopes, Part 61409, to reduce the count of 5404 to 2. The single Technic pin 1/2 without friction ridges, Part 4274 in light bluish gray, is used to connect the trans light blue hemisphere tile in the cockpit. I think this is better as the Technic pin 1/2 with the friction ridges, Part 89678 in dark bluish gray, as without the friction ridges this tile wobbles quite a bit. The R4P17 dome specified is Part 553PX4. This is an older variant from 2005-2006. Any of the R4 domes will work, but the most recent and least expensive is Part 553PB044, which came in set 75333 in 2022. It's also worth checking out if buying the entire minifigure ends up saving you any. That's part number SW1221. Since the LEGO economy is kind of weird, sometimes the algorithm will give you a store charging more for just the dome piece than another seller is charging just for the entire minifigure. If you don't care about the landing gear, you can eliminate the following elements. I think for most people the landing gear is not a necessity, and I found the dark bluish gray skeleton arms bent with clips at 90 degrees, part 93061, to be oddly expensive at usually $1 each. I did not include these parts in my pricing research. You'll maximize your savings buying the required elements from LEGO's Pick-a-Brick service. Pick-a-Brick orders over $35 ship for free, and if you spend more than $14 in the bestseller or standard categories, the handling fees are waived. I use the Brick Hunter extension to check the entire parts list against the Pick-a-Brick inventory, and I'll go over those results in the conclusion. I also have a referral link to Pick-a-Brick, for which I get a small portion of the proceeds. As always, I greatly appreciate it if you use it, and thank you for supporting the channel. Instructions for this Delta 7 consist of 226 steps, with each part or subassembly added in each step outlined in red against a gray background. This is generally fine for visibility, but usually for builds with a lot of dark red, I find teal to be a better color. However, the instructions go at a nice pace and don't have you adding too many elements in a given step, so this is not a big issue. FlyInSpace's instructions are meticulously annotated, and usually any time you might run into an issue where a simple graphic might not tell the entire story, the designer includes a helpful note or alignment tips. This greatly improves the building experience, and while making the connection is still up to you to execute, I generally feel that FlyInSpace has given us all the information we need to do it properly. I only noted a few steps with potential issues, all of which could easily be attributed to me, so please take these with a grain of salt. The subassembly that gets connected in step 49 can cause the droid arms to get carefully aligned in steps 35 and 36 to get misaligned. If you see this happen, it's simple to adjust the droid arms to their proper place. In step 62, I was honestly not sure what to make of this graphic, and I didn't find it very useful, mostly because there's not really a way to tell how far the bar is supposed to be inserted by just looking at it. A specific measurement of exposed bar would be more useful, but I guess the larger point is to not insert the bar all the way until you feel a positive stop. In step 198, it was not immediately clear to me that the 2x2 cones stubbed into the dark bluish gray brackets that went on all the way back to step 32. I think part of the problem for me was that the following page states that the round tiles should rest against the curved slopes, leaving it unclear if the subassembly was supposed to be held in place with a simple compression or with actual connection. Lastly, and this is just due to simply the way the model is constructed, it took me quite a bit of time to connect the wings to the model in the correct way. The wings are on the delicate side, and the mix of joints require a lot of force to connect. I still see some minor asymmetries in my model due to the wing placement, but correcting it at this point would be too costly in terms of time and patience for me, So the notes in the instructions are fine, this is just an inherently difficult series of connections to make. The build took me about 3 hours start to finish without any pre-sorting. This model is decently swishable, but I wouldn't overdo it. The standard grip is something like this and can hold up to most casual movements. FlyInSpace does note that the engines are easy to knock off, and I've definitely found this to be true. This section at the back here behind the cockpit can also feel a little bit loose, as there is some play due to the way the slight angling is achieved. The connection points to the wings are quite strong, but the wings themselves can be a bit delicate. This is especially true if the wing connections cause any part of the wing to be under strain. If this happens, the wings can and probably will break apart. This is not pretty, so definitely take some time to make the wing connections. There's also a risk of the main connection between the front and back halves of the fuselage coming loose, and this is not a fun fix by any means. The 3 studs of the bracket assembly in step 37 go into the holes of the Technic lift arm the instrument tile is on. Basically, this creates a potential weak spot right in the middle of the cockpit. This is a problem with any intense swooshing, especially in the forward-backward motion. Even though this section is braced at the bottom with this bottom subassembly, it can still come loose. And you'll definitely feel it flexing here if you have this problem. I covered the landing gear a little earlier. The TLDR here is that the landing skids work, but you need to be pretty gentle setting the model down on them, especially the front skid. Finally, I found the display stand connection to the ship to be too weak for my taste. I had a few what I would consider light bumps that knocked the model off the stand. This is always going to be a trade-off between being able to easily take the model off and keeping it stable. For me, stability is more important, so you can modify the stand to make it more secure using a 1x2 plate with bar piece. I also found that the connection at the base down here was also a little bit weaker than I expected. It's a 3-stud connection at the bottom, which is just fine for the ship, but the support column can act as a long lever if you put enough pressure on it, and it can come off. FlyInSpace's Delta 7 Jedi Interceptor is an amazing model. Even with only 400 pieces, it looks great and is sturdy enough for display and light swooshing. The build experience is really fun, challenging but accessible thanks to the designer's pointers. Cost-wise, this is also a very accessible model. Like I said in the introduction, I was getting 4 stores and $56 without shipping and tax, or $84 without shipping and tax without any substitutions. With my substitutions, this dropped down to 4 stores and $50 without shipping and tax, or about $78 with shipping and tax. Finally, using Pick-a-Brick, my Pick-a-Brick total was $43. This included tax, and I did pad my Pick-a-Brick standard elements by $7 to eliminate the handling fee, and I also got free shipping. The remaining elements I would have gotten from 2 Bricklink stores and $4 without shipping and tax, or about $16 with shipping and tax, for a total of $59. Instructions for this model cost $10 and are available on Rebrickable. There will be a link to where you can buy those in the description below. If you plan on buying pieces for this model, consider using my affiliate link for LEGO's Pick-a-Brick service, also linked below. Thanks as always for watching my review of FlyInSpace's Delta 7 Jedi Interceptor. If you built this model, you have something to share that I left out, or have a question about something I didn't cover, please leave your thoughts below in the comments. I am very conscious that subscribers are earned and not deserved, so if you enjoy my content and want to see more, consider liking the video, subscribing, leaving a comment, or following me on Instagram if you haven't already. Thank you, and I hope to see you back next time.